Hi, my name is Vanshika Gautam, and the topic that I've chosen for my presentation slide is the extraterrestrial species sending a coded message that reads surrender. And in this presentation slide, I am supposed to be the Prime Minister of Australia and supposed to deliver a report on the extremity of the situation. And in this presentation slides, I have also noted down the precautions and also the measures that can be taken in that kind of extreme situations at being the Prime Minister of Australia. So the first presentation slide reads an uncustomary message. Uncustomary refers to anything that is unusual, unfamiliar. So in this context, the topic that was assigned is definitely uncustomary because the message that was sent is certainly really unfamiliar, and hence the topic, an uncustomary message. The second slide reads about the crisis. The main thing about the presentation, the crisis, we need to understand what the crisis is about. That reads, Satai, search for extraterrestrial intelligence, recently confirms the signal coming from the space at 1300, that is 1 p.m. Australian timing, 27th April 2020. And scientists confirm the signal to carry an encoded message that reads surrender. The signal, when tried to be replicated, instead shows a listing and landing coordinating the city scheduled in 2 hours, that is at 3 p.m. approximately. And the core thing about this presentation slide is the possibility of global chaos and crisis, as follows. SETI confirms technosignatures. Now, technosignatures refer to the study that deals with the possibility of life, outside the Earth. So anything that is outside the Earth is dealt by the technosignatures. So that is the term which is defined by. And so SETI refers to a collective term to perform scientific research for extraterrestrial intelligence, and it monitors electromagnetic radiation that transmits signals to perform tests to experiment possibility of life or species that is present outside the Earth. On 27th April 2020, that is today, 1:30 p.m. AST, scientists discovered a signal that carried an encoded message that simply read surrender, and the arrival of the species to be approximately 2 hours after sending the message. So that is what the situation is about. Now, the core thing about the presentation slide, global chaos. Global chaos could be created as a result of this crisis, which could lead to being targeted by the aliens to do so. Not just the country, the entire world would be in global chaos. Threatening of the nations by the powerful nations could end up in a war, making situations worse. So while we're busy dealing with these things, the bigger nations or the nations with power, or which are the powerful nations, they could actually dominate the small nations and the weak nations especially they could persuade the nations to come into their side in a hope of being protected by the aliens. So threatening of the nations, that could actually make the situations worse, if not now, if in future. Countries might undoubtedly feel left out by the EDC, which could control the civilians aligning with the extraterrestrial species after guaranteeing their survival. So another possibility that could happen is that some of the countries could feel left out and feel unmonitored by the global organizations that deals with this emergency situations, and that taking that advantage of the situation, the aliens or the extraterrestrial species could actually take an advantage of the situation and persuade the civilians of those countries to take their side, and they could possibly align those humans to their side in hope of guaranteeing their survival. So that is one possibility that could happen. So talking about what areas are vulnerable, we're just talking about our country, our Australia. So what areas are vulnerable in our country? As per the encoded chip received, the arrival is catered in the city area, the heart of Sydney, that covers from central to all the way to the North Shore line. The North Shore line that extends from maybe North Sydney to Hornsby, Asquith, Mount Colah, Newcastle, etc. Although we have been trying to detect the possibility of harm in the city, we assume the North Shore area to be comparatively more vulnerable to their arrival. So as per the message, we have had a thorough research and we assume the North Shore area could actually be vulnerable, although it has not been confirmed, but we assume it could be vulnerable. The Western City and regional New South Wales could, however, be considered less impacted on their arrival. Now, the test that we've done is actually on the basis of the signal that was sent from the extraterrestrial species, and according to that, we've made the announcement of the most vulnerable areas in our opinion. What to do next? So the message read that they could correspond or land in 2 hours. Now, what to do next? What to do as a civilian? Although we do not guarantee the threat broadcasted by an extraterrestrial species, we urge the civilians to stay in their homes or shelter and await for further development as a precaution. Civilians, please help one another, provide help, provide shelter to one another, because we have really short time to actually deal with these emergency situations. We do not have days to encounter the actual situations. It could happen right now. It could happen any moment. So we urge the civilians to walk hand in hand to help one another in this emergency situations. Instructions and updates will be broadcasted via TV and other websites, so you will be informed about what to do next. Public is not encouraged to travel as we will be halting the transportation shortly. So all the transportation, all the New South Wales transportation will be in a halt. We'll be putting that into a halt to ensure the safety of our civilians. And the North Shore will be guarded by the police to ensure the safety of the public. So we would be recruiting police in those areas. What are we working on? Now, what are we as the government, are working on? So since the discovery of the first radio signals, our researchers have been trying to access to contact with the origin of the message first sent. So we are not staying idle. We are not staying effortless. We're continuously trying to track that message where it came from. Use of wireless communications to provide a non-aggressive gesture to delay or terminate. Now, the first thing we need to figure out is that whether the message that was sent would cause us any harm or not. So for that, we are trying to delay or at least temporarily terminate their arrival. So we're trying to track that system down. Mobilizing military weapons and air units in a secretive manner. Now, we need to ensure that the planet as a whole is safe. So we have started mobilizing military weapons and air units in a really secretive manner. Aligning our information with the NASA and EDC, that stands for Earth Defense Council, that prepares all the people around the world to prepare for defenses like in this emergency situation. So we're aligning each and every information to NASA and EDC at the moment. Establishing connections with the radio signal to prepare to negotiate in case of a world defeat crisis. Now, we need to have something, we need to have a backup just in case the world, the human survival is under a threat. So we're trying to negotiate, we're trying to catch that signal back and trying to negotiate as well. Presidential statement. So, as per the presidential statement, I might not have to describe all that because that's a presidential statement made by the President of Australia. Companies, including the minor grocery places, to be shut down until further notice to ensure safety of all civilians. Failure to do so will result in severe consequences. The government takes the responsibility of all case economy, which will ensure the safety of the economy of the country as a whole. Not only will the state go into a complete lockdown period, failure to comply by the emergency rules by each of the civilians, not just the local civilians, but even the officers, will result in heavy fines and severe repercussion and termination from the country, because we are in a global emergency situation. The government orders a complete obligation to their orders and hereby declares an emergency state in the country. Yes. We stand together. In accordance to the presidential statement delivered by our president, we urge all our civilians to stay home, seek shelter, help one another at this time of emergency, regardless of the consequences of the crisis. We would like to ensure all the civilians to stay strong, to stay together. Together we stand. And help us while we face all the extremity of the situations, while we're trying to deal with this situation, what to do next. All our scientists, research workers have been trying to resolve the catastrophe that we may encounter in future. So we are not staying idle. We're doing something about it. All our workforces are in their full work. So stay strong. This is Scott Morrison, Prime Minister of Australia. Thank you. So that's the end of my presentation slide as the Prime Minister of Australia. In conclusion, in my opinion, the task assigned to us was extremely agile. It was really sophisticated. It was so, it was really fun. In my opinion, it was like really fun to know about space, especially space. I have a really I'm really passionate about space, outer space, and knowing all these extraterrestrial species, black holes. So for me, it was really fun performing the research, but it also helped me with the software presentation slides. So I use Keynote, not the PowerPoint presentation, but I will be converting this into a PowerPoint presentation format. However, I've used Keynote for this. And using creativity to prepare the presentation, I believe these kinds of assignments will undoubtedly be helpful for the students like us to know how to use our professional skills of ICT. That's the main core of our subject in real life. I'd like to thank our lecturer, Mr. Shakir Karim, for helping us in each and every class dealing with how to deal with the professional communication skills in real life that actually comes practical in like real life, and making us able to undertake the assignments easily. So thank you so much to our lecturer as well. So I've pasted the references which I've taken from have been pasted here. I referred to 3 websites, NASA, and that was the Scientific American website, and the other one was the Outer Space website. So I would be pasting this video. It's quite lengthy, but I would be pasting this video here by transforming into a Google Drive. So thank you so much for listening to my presentation slide. Thank you.